Okay, so I'm going to show you now how you can make a really inexpensive edit controller that I think is as good as something like a Lightworks edit controller or something you might get expensive custom made or from Avid or another of the big controller manufacturers. What I've got here is a Razer Nostromo and a little jog wheel. I believe this is by Griffin. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and import a file into Final Cut, and I'm going to drag it over to the preview window. Okay, so what I can do here is I can very quickly use transport controls. So I've got in the middle here, I'm just going to do this with one finger so you can see, I've got play and pause. So I can play and pause, and then if I go ahead and launch the PowerMate control software, which I probably should have done before this video, I can just go ahead and make sure I've got my template set up properly, and I can now go ahead and use this to go forward and backwards, advancing single frames. Okay, so what I can do with this is I can, and you must excuse the rendering glitches please, my computer's doing a lot more than it was designed for right now, is you can play backwards and forwards, and I can just go ahead and insert in and out points on this just by using, I've got my in point and my out point there, and I can insert them, and if I want to adjust them, so I want to go a few frames ahead, I can just go over to my jog wheel and I can go ahead and advance and reset the keyframe. It wouldn't normally be this slow, it's just because I'm doing so much at once on this system here. Okay, so down here I've got some settings. I've got here is insert, delete, and overwrite. These are the three of the really key things you're going to be doing while editing. And just here I have add edit. And then I've got go to in point and go to out point. And I can go to my in point. These will also work for go to last edit and go to previous edit. So I can then, if I want, I have on this button, I've set this up so that when I hold this down, these come to a separate bank. Now everything but this key here is mapped to the defaults, so I haven't really set those up yet. But if I press this, it will play through to my out point. So once I've done that and I'm happy with the clip I want to send to the timeline, I can just go ahead and hit overwrite, and that will send my clip to the timeline. So if I click into the timeline here, my transport controls will work just the same. But say I wasn't quite happy with what I was doing, I could go ahead and I could play it through, and just at the end there I could add an edit just by using that add edit button there, and that's just going to go ahead and slice where I ask it to slice. And I've just gone ahead and undid that immediately because I wasn't really happy with it. I've got that mapped to undo and this here mapped to redo. Okay, so what I can do is I can go ahead and I can frame in on my edit, This is going to be very slow here because it's not rendered, and as I said, I am pushing this computer to quite a bit more than it was designed for right now. So I could zoom in right on the mid form of that transition there, and I could add an edit, click that, and then just go ahead and delete those, just to go ahead and perform a trim function. The other great thing about this is if I were to go ahead and just go overwrite and overwrite again to add 2 more instances of that. A great thing about having the delete mapped like that is if I just go ahead and select both of these and hit delete, I can go ahead and just click in that grey space and do a ripple delete as well, so that will act as a ripple delete, and this will be a massive time saver. And the other brilliant thing about this is if it doesn't matter if you're working on Premiere or Final Cut or Avid or Lightworks, if you have these mapped, you don't need to go ahead and keep relearning your key commands, because you can just find out how the functions work in the program you're moving to, and you can just stick this in and start editing. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've learnt something.